Good afternoon. We'd like to welcome everybody to our Board of Supervisors meeting. This time, we'd like to call the meeting to order. And the next item would be approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Madam Clerk?
Mr. Ely?
Yes.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Akery?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Chairman Jefferson?
Yes. Next, we have the invocation by Supervisor David Gardner.
Yes, good evening. Invocation will be performed by Mrs. Amanda McCarty. Would you please come up and provide the invocation, please? Thank you.
Thank you, Board of Supervisors members. My name is Pastor Amanda McCarty. I pastor the Healing Waters Worship Center in Carrollton, Virginia, and I'm also a citizen of Carrollton. I've lived there for 25 years at 10 Thorley Street in Carrollton, Virginia. And so thank you, Mr. Gardner, for allowing me to bring the invocation this morning. I did want to tell you just briefly, thank you so much to each one of you for all of your time, your effort, your strength, your stamina as you lead this county. I know better than most how difficult that job is. And so I just want you to know that I appreciate your effort. Sometimes it truly is a labor of love. As mine is as well. So let's pray and ask the Lord to bless us tonight. God Almighty, we love you and we thank you, Father God, for our time together this evening. Lord, I thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to stand before this board today. Father, I ask that you would just touch each one of them, that you would minister to them, Lord. Lord, that you would give them strength and that you would give them vitality, Lord, that you would help them in their decision-making process, Lord God. Thank you, Lord, that we are a part of this great county, that we get to reside in the great state of Virginia. Father, I pray for them. I pray that you would give them wisdom and guidance and direction, Lord, as they lead this county and they lead the citizens of this county. Father God, I pray for the staff that are here. Lord, I ask that you would bless them, continue to give them strength and stamina, Lord, ingenuity and creativity, Lord, as they guide and direct the goings on here in this county. Lord, I pray for the citizens in this county. Lord, I pray that your favor would rest upon them and that, Lord, you would meet every need that they have. And that, Lord, as we, a group of people, as a community, work together, Father, I pray that you would be at the centerpiece of that. That, Lord, you would help us, Lord, to live peaceably one with another. That, Lord, we would love our neighbors, Lord God, as you have called us to do. That, Lord, you would create community and compassion inside of us, Lord, as we reach out to those that are here in Isle of Wight. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity. Lord, I pray that your face would shine upon us and that you would be gracious to us and that we would operate in your peace, Father. Thank you for this time, and it's in the name of Jesus, my Savior, I pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor McCarty, for that beautiful invocation.
They're going to lead us. Pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll turn it over to our county administrator.
Good evening, board members. We are delighted on this evening. We have our financial advisors from Davenport and Company with us tonight. They're going to provide some information that obviously will help guide us as we move forward in looking at some of the capital needs of the county, in particular schools and some of the other capital needs that have been identified. And with that, I'm going to ask David if you would come up and introduce himself and his staff from Davenport. So thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Good to be here. Again, excited to see Mr. Robertson as your county administrator. We were talking about it. We go back 36 years when we worked on that regional jail that's still out there and is one that worked well. So again, David Rose, Jimmy Sanderson, my business partner of over 20 years. So he's a newbie relative to Don, but, get to him. And then Owen Lachlan is very new to us, just joined us as one of our young people. So again, appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're going to be about maybe 20 minutes. Jimmy and I'll take about 10, he'll do the other 10. But by all means, stop us or any questions. I will say it's educational only, that's number one. But let me start, if you hear nothing else from us and from me, and that is the county is in solid financial shape. Okay, you do that. All right, I'll wait.
How are you? Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Make sure we got this just quick.
Oh, good. Okay, and then I just simply click to the right. Okay. Now you sounds good. All righty. We're all good. All right. So again, if I say nothing else tonight, if you hear nothing else tonight, A, it's educational, and B, the county is in good, solid shape. We know this is budget season, and we know there's some real challenges for everyone. There's a number of things being talked about in Richmond that are going to be costly. But there's also some other opportunities. So with that said, some of you, I know there's some new board members, some new faces. So we are your independent financial advisor. We're your fiduciary. What that simply means, we're not here to sell you anything. We're not a brokerage or a bank. We are basically here to make sure that the county understands decisions that it makes from a financial perspective. And so there's a variety of things we've done and will continue to do at your pleasure. But again, tonight, one of those is just education. So what we don't do is to determine which projects you should do. We don't underwrite any of the bonds. We have no financial interest in any of the projects that are funded. We are purely your advisor. Tonight, what we're going to give you is what we call a high-level comprehensive financial review. You have hard copies of this. I would say any citizen that would like hard copies of this, we're more than happy to provide. So they just come through you. And again, this is meant to be fully disclosed and fully transparent. So again, table of contents, goals and objectives. So our goals and objectives today are basically fourfold. We want to let you understand how the county has trended in the general fund. We want to provide what we call a peer comparative. We think a lot of times that's helpful for others as well as board members to realize how do you compare to your neighbors that are really relevant to you when it comes to how you're operating. We're going to talk a little bit about your debt portfolio for the general fund as well as the schools. One of the things that Mr. Robertson gave us was the capital improvement program, and so we were able to look at that and give some good thought to that. We'll talk a little bit about that tonight. And then finally, look at some of your financial policies. We work with you to develop those. We've enhanced them over the years. I will tell you, when we started with some of those financial policies, we weren't necessarily in compliance. Today, we are in compliance, and that's part of why we have a very good credit rating. So that leads into this big matrix, which may be a little hard to see, but let me just make it simple. When we first started with you back in 1990, and we did the original projects for the jail, we were in a okay category, an A category. Well, today we are now in the thick of AA, which is considered very strong. And in fact, not only that, but you can see there, Standard & Poor's has you in the very highest level of the AA, which is a AA+. So you are now one step away from being a vaunted AAA, and that's a big deal, especially given the relative size of the county, because it's harder sometimes to be a AAA with the population, and that sometimes plays a factor. So there are three major credit rating agencies. We have the full reports back in the back of your book. Again, they're available to anyone, no price, no charge, if I should say, to the citizens if they'd like to access them. Basically, these are the comments that we were able to glean off of from our last discussions. I would point out, you'll notice it says 2 of 22. Yes, that's basically 4 years ago. But since then, they continue to monitor this. So if they did not feel like you were continuing in that mode, we would not see that. So I want to point that out. Again, critical pieces, I think the takeaways is that third bullet point, and I'll read it for those maybe can't see as well, and they say debt and pension burdens slightly above average for the rating category, but will remain manageable given the continued tax base growth, your adherence to formal debt policies, your continued amortization of debt, and your moderate additional issuance plans. So that was 4 years ago. You're just stronger today. So we like where you're going. We like the trending. So S&P, similar. Their point, strong management policies and practices. When they talk about management, they're talking about you as well as your staff. That's the way they collectively call it management. And again, they feel very good about that. And so, again, they say conservative budgeting practices, positive financial position, and from their perspective, again, you have ample amount of growth. They like your affordability. Fitch, these folks also, you'll notice they actually did a more recent report back last year in August. So a little less than a year ago. I don't think I have to read it. You can just see what they're saying here. They like the way you're moving. They like your focus. And again, all those things are very strong. So let's talk a little bit about peer comparatives. I mentioned a moment ago, there are 95 counties. 13 of them have a AAA. You're a part of the 20 that have a AA. And if you think about it, so the top third of counties in the overall state. When you first started, you were an A, okay? And then the rest basically don't have ratings or are below that. So you've come a long way in the time that Don and I have had the opportunity, and with Jimmy joining us, to be a part of all this. So moving in the right direction, even through some difficult times that we had when the closing happened at Union Camp and all of those things. But again, all of this is, you've come through it in a very strong way. So we do some peer comparatives. Like I said, tonight, because of the timing, you can come back and look at this. But I just wanted you to see the kind of folks that we compare you to. We're not looking at Northern Virginia folks per se. Really not a good comparison. So we did a variety of different, we'll call it metrics. Population, you've been moving steadily, as you can see, since the 2010 census, almost a 12% growth. So again, you're moving nicely. Your historic tax rate, you know what that is. You've adjusted it. You know what you did last year. I don't have to belabor that. But we then like to compare that to, again, the regional average. So the regional average is about 91 cents. You're at 78 roughly. So again, you're in a good position, relatively speaking. Obviously, everybody always would like it lower if possible, but nevertheless, again, you can just sort of see that as a perspective. Then we have a number of taxes, user fees, and the reason we're showing this to you is we want you to sort of see how you compare in the region, what kind of runway you have. So you look at the meals tax, you're at 6%. You look at neighbors even across the water, you're talking about Hampton at 7.5%, Newport News. They're, considerably higher. But nevertheless, you're really in that sweet spot. 6% is kind of where a lot of the other folks are. And yes, there are some that are lower. Interestingly enough, the James City, the York, those folks are going to be able to raise theirs. They had that moratorium for a number of years, and that since has come off with Williamsburg as well, moving up. So lodging tax, again, on the low end. So again, a lot of runway there. And I'll just sort of, the citizens, I'm not here advocating raising the tax. It's not what we're saying. It's just a given, a perspective of how you compare to the others. Okay, Your assessed value, as y'all know, shot up dramatically. And you can see what we did here, when you go back and look at this, if you do, we compare it on the right-hand side, A-rated local governments, AA, which is where you are, and then AAAs. You'll notice you're lower than AAAs. As I said earlier, AAAs, by and large, are your largest local governments in the state. The Fairfaxes, the Arlingtons, the Chesterfields, those are much larger places. And that's why you see that number. But you're still very solid. Yes, sir.
Is this time to, so, a number of years ago, a number of presentations ago, one thing that stuck with me when they said that they evaluate our rate, our rating, if you will, based on the board's willingness or, willingness to raise taxes if they need to. So assessment, just a few years ago, our assessment came in, and obviously values went up.
Yes.
This board elected to do, and in my opinion, something a lot of other local governments don't do, and that is, a lot of times, it seems to me, other localities just take that as a revenue windfall, and it helps them cushion things, and it makes it a little bit easier, if you will, for elected officials or for the government. This board took the approach that we didn't need the money at the time, so we put it back in the pockets of our citizens. On the same token, you just mentioned last year we had to raise our rate. Do you, I won't say rewarded, but do they look at that, your willingness to be responsible, which is what we were doing by dropping the rate with the reassessment? Now, we had to keep a portion because the cost of businesses
Right.
just keeps going up.
Right.
But do they look at that as a healthy environment as opposed to say, a government that just assessment comes along, there's a windfall, maybe that's a little strong term, of money that comes in, and they just keep on going? Is there any, I guess, reward? How do they look at that, I guess?
That's a great question. So basically, I think you sort of hit on it. What they care about is what you do with that new tax rate, if you would, if there's a new tax rate, is responsible. And it allows you as a board to set up your next budget that doesn't rely on one-time revenues. So if you're able to, whatever local government that is, says, okay, whether we adjust it, what have you, move it back, somewhat move it back, as long as we're able to not be playing games and say, well, we've got some extra money one time, and that'll plug this budget. I'm not talking about capital now, but
Right.
for operations, then they're good. That's what they look at. And in fact, in a moment or two, Jimmy will talk about some of your performance, and you'll see where you have actually been growing some of your reserves. You have done some things. So from their perspective, you're in good shape. But at the same time, we also know it's year to year. And so that's part of why we're here, because, again, going forward, if collective bargaining does occur, and we're hearing rumors that that's going to happen, now we may be wrong, but we're hearing that, you know what? That's going to cost all local governments a lot of money. And so that may not be for this coming budget year. Maybe not, we don't know yet, but more than likely to be the subsequent budget year if you think about it. So I'm not trying to be evasive on my answer to you, but I think you've been around long enough to know, as long as we set up responsible budgets that don't have gimmicks in them, they'll be okay.
Okay, and I appreciate that. So to kind of echo what you're saying, this board, just our last year's budget, I mean, they got in the weeds, everything was picked apart as much as we could, right on down to, I mean, just as lean as you can make it, which is what this board has done ever since I've been around, I'm sure before even I showed up. But we try to keep it very lean. But obviously, politically speaking, when you drop the tax rate, that's buried in the newspaper in the back. When you raise the tax rate, it's a headline, But it's responsible. We had said before, just to reiterate, if the county didn't need the money, let's put it back in our citizens' pockets. So, again, right to the beginning, I remember them saying that your willingness to raise taxes for needs is very important.
And the second part of that, it's your willingness and then your ability. And what I think we see here is you have that ability. But then again, it goes back to the harder thing is also the willingness.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
So one thing we will show up here then, we took your assessed value and then we divide it by your population. And that's a metric that these rating agencies do. I'd call it assessed value per capita. And you're almost $200,000. That's really strong. That's closer to a AAA, and it's much stronger than a AA. So just something to keep in mind. It's better than national averages. It's better than Virginia averages. So again, they like that. That's a strength that they look at. The next thing is your median household income. That, again, has moved up considerably in the last decade. Yes, there's been inflation, but you can see, again, versus the AAs throughout the state, you're above that. So again, you're in good shape, somewhat below the AAAs, as you'd expect. They tend to be more urban areas, more expensive areas. So again, you're looking good on that metric. So I'm going to turn it over now to Jimmy, and we'll do the second half, and hopefully, and then we, again, happy to answer any questions for all of you, and if you think of some things afterward, but we're here, so thank you.
Yeah, and I think you're going to hear again at the end that we're going to suggest that we get with Don on a few things and come back eventually and give you a more detailed presentation related to actual borrowings. But again, Jimmy Sanderson, great to be back here again. Good to see everybody. We're going to talk a little bit more about the general fund side and your actual dollar revenues. David hit on a number of these already. Again, it's well run from the ratings agency perspective and our perspective as well. One of the things we're going to talk about also is your fund balance. That's really important. Again, we've needed to use that in the past for certain things, and you've done it responsibly. You're in compliance with your financial policies. The rating agencies also look at that as well. That's one of the things that they do look to see if you're following your own policies. They are guidelines that you set, so you've adopted these policies in the past, and you can change them. And it's something that we look at every now and then just to make sure they're still in line with where they should be. And then again, the financial metrics, we're going to show you some comparatives again of where you stand versus other localities. So the first thing that we do when we go back and look at the financial health of a local government is look at your operating history. So this is basically boiling down revenues compared to your expenses and whether you're really adding to the bottom line or not. And Isle of Wight historically has done that. There's 1 year in 23 that had to do with, I believe, the machinery tools tax payment back. That's the only year that you had that negative there. So, and there's obviously a good reason for that. And you're going to see here that you added to the bottom line in FY24. One of the things that we do want to do is eventually see 25 as well, and we'll go back and we'll add this in here when we get FY25 numbers. Look at property tax collections. Again, this sort of rolls everything up, and again, you can see the increase in 24 related predominantly to the assessment increase you had that year. But 23, again, that was down, I suspect, again, because of that M&T issue. Sales tax and use tax. Good growth here. We're going to talk about this a little bit. I know you all are aware of the 1% sales tax. That's legislation related to school construction that's at the General Assembly now. We're going to hit on that in a little bit as well, how that might come into play here too. So our fund balance, so this is what David alluded to, the policy that we set. It's 15%. Your fund balance, unassigned fund balance is 15% of your budget expenditures. And so you can see down at the bottom where you are. You're at 32% almost, which is great. So you're well above your policy. Where the rating agencies will start to look at things, if you're starting to spend those dollars, what are you spending them on? One-time capital is fine. When you start spending them on recurring costs that you have, that's where they start to see an issue with that. But very strong here, and you're in good position.
But I want to make sure we're clear.
Yes,
Fund
sir.
balance should not be used for operating.
That's
normal
correct.
Operating expenses.
That's correct.
And our policy is 15, our policy is 15%.
Yeah, but
So-
we are saying fund balance shall not be used.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, you can use it, but that's where you start to get in trouble, because eventually you're going to run out of those monies, and you got to plug that gap in your budget.
Right.
Yeah, one of the other positives to having that fund balance is, in particular now, you're earning money on those dollars as well that you can put back into your budget.
Our policy is 15%, but we have 31%.
That's correct.
Okay.
To show you how you compare to others, again, on the left-hand side is just pure dollar amounts, and on the right side is a percentage. This is a different percentage than the prior page because we're comparing it against revenues which is just the metrics that S&P calculates for these medians. But on the just pure dollar side, again, you're sort of right there in the middle of that AA category. They're a little bit higher there. And on a percentage side, again, you're a little bit below where the AA is. So this is one area where you're not stacking up as well as others on your just overall fund balance policy. Not policy, but overall fund balance. We're going to jump now and look at your debt profile. This is something that's evolved obviously over time. On the left-hand side, graphically, you can see here your debt service is in excess of 14 million, almost 15 million right now. You're working on your budget for 27, which is similar number to 26. So there's not going to be a whole lot of changes there. And then your debt service starts to step down, and that's a positive for us because if you start to have to do additional borrowings, which you may, that what we call a debt capacity, just based off your pay down of your existing debt. And your debt goes down about $2 million or so over the next few years, and that comes out to about, we say, $30 million of debt capacity. So just based off your drop in debt service, you could add about $30 million of debt without having to come up with additional revenues to pay for it. We always broken this out for you just to show you where you spend your money. General fund projects about 50 million, school funds about 72 million, and the utility funds about 28.5 million. So schools are about half of your overall debt borrowings. Another policy that you have is debt to assessed value. So this is a ratio that, because your assessed value increased significantly the other year, you're in much better shape than you used to be. But you're below 2%, which if you look over to the right, you're in a very good place compared to others. You're right there with that AA category, just a little bit higher, but not too much. A lot of capacity there. Debt service to expenditure is a little closer. Again, I think we knew that historically because we knew we were paying a lot of our debt. You are paying it down. That's going to drop down again as that debt service starts to go down. But you have a policy to keep that debt service at less than 12% of your overall expenditures. So that's your current policy. The payout ratio is something we look at just to see how quickly you're paying back your debt. So the higher the number, the more quickly you're paying it off. So we're right about 60%. So that means you're paying off 60% of your principal over the next 10 years. That's a very strong payout ratio. And so again, it means you're not backloading the debt, you're not kicking that can down the road, you are paying down that principal, and you saw that in those earlier slides. So we got your capital improvement plan. I know you're looking at it again too, and this is a place where, again, we'll get with Don and maybe revise this a little bit. But you do have a 10-year plan, which is great. We broke it up and really looked at everything except schools here. So you've got about a total of $90 million over the next 10 years that you've got to find funding for, right? And so that's what your source is down at the bottom. The proposed debt on this is about $20 million that you would need to get to fund this whole thing. And again, this is not including schools. Again, we would suggest that we get with Don, look at what you've really got coming up over the next couple of years in addition to the school project, and see if there's some ways we can roll that in there for just savings. So we broke up the schools separately. Again, the west side is the big one coming up. We understand too that you've got some grant money that's not included in this, which is great. So about 14 million of that, 66 million will come from grant money. We're going to want to look at sort of see how we're going to pay the timing of it. When's that grant money going to be used? When do you need the money to borrow as well? So this is what we were alluding to earlier, which is the 1% local option sales tax. It sounds like you all are familiar with that, but it's currently with the legislation. It's actually, if it comes out the way it's set up in the House, it'll be better than it was historically that was proposed. It gives some different options, but we've got to wait and see what that really looks like. And that probably won't be for 5 weeks or so until we really know what's going to be in there. But we were doing some approximation. 1%, around 3.4 million of revenue we might produce, and that would get us an additional $50 million of borrowing capacity. So that's another thing that we'll look up. The last point is, again, to the extent you can use those sales tax monies for other capital projects that were going to be part of your budget, it's going to free that up from your budget as well. So next steps, again, we're not asking you to do anything today. We're going to get with your staff, go back and refine some things. If FY25 is available, certainly we'll add that. We've got the state legislation period is going to end in April, and I guess we'll know around then what the 1% sales tax looks like. We'd want to come back to you in a couple months, get back a little bit more of the debt capacity, look at affordability, whether we want to include the 1%. Maybe we've got a little bit more guidance on what your capital needs might be from a borrowing perspective, and then present that to you probably in early summer after getting some feedback from your staff. Again, and then the plan will be to come to agreement on what that plan of finance might look like, and if we are in a position to do it, execute that the remainder of the year. So I think that is it, Mr. Chairman. But happy to answer any questions.
All right, board members, want to have any questions tonight? We'll wait until we can digest this and maybe submit any concerns to the county administrator and let him forward them to a financial advisor.
May I just ask one? Can I ask one
Yes, sir.
question? So the unassigned fund balance. The understanding there, of course, I think it's been mentioned more than once here, is it's not intended to cushion or make your operating budget continue to flow. But we do receive some revenue or interest or something on that amount of money. Is there any penalty, or what does it look like from a rating standard if you start to earmark, say, for example, the revenue or the interest of that money towards infrastructure type projects or something that's responsible? Obviously you don't want to do that as part of your budget, but when you're looking at things like, for example, in our county, there's places that need sewer. We really don't have a plan because we know we don't have that resource for money now. But if this board or the next board decided to use part of that revenue over time to start creating a plan and move forward, does that look, I would assume it looks responsible, so you wouldn't be penalized? Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as you're projecting it in a conservative way, right? So, I mean, interest rates go up and down. We had periods of time where they were really low, and so
Right.
if you're going to do it, you're going to want to haircut your assumed earnings.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, and the interesting thing here, maybe the number one thing rating agencies care about, away from that structural balance that you and I talked about a few moments ago, is that you really have cash is king. They really feel good about that, because under the theory, if something really goes wrong, you got a lot of extra dollars. Having said that, obviously you never really want to use that if you really have to, meaning to plug a hole that you didn't expect.
Right.
But I do think, again, and I see Gerald's here, and he walked in. So the earnings that you get are substantial nowadays, and that, of course, comes back into the county, and we like that, and that's important because think about it. Just a couple weeks ago, we borrowed money, fixed rate, 20-year debt, right before the war started. It was 3.25% for Virginia Beach, 20-year fixed rate. So I know that the earning ability on your money is going to be around there, if not better. So from that perspective, that's a really nice thing to have some of those extra dollars. And it helps with us keeping those ratings up or getting those ratings better. They just look at it that way. So again, that's why Jimmy pointed out, when you compare some of those AA's and even AAA's have very high percentages, they do. But the money is being used. I think we want to make the citizens realize it's not just sitting there idle. It's there earning more money than when we borrow for long-term projects. It's earning more money than even the borrowing costs.
And that's kind of, I'm glad to hear that you say that, because I think a lot of times citizens see that and they start to think one or two things. They either start drilling and think about things we should be buying, or they want to know why we're not a savings institute. Why isn't the money back in their pocket?
Right.
And I think you've kind of answered a good part of that.
Yeah, and lastly, the fact is, when we were at A-rated credit, our cost of money, if we were, let's say we wouldn't be talking today about, we were talking to Don before this, we're probably talking about fixed rate around 4% right now, okay?
Not on a single A, you wouldn't be doing that with.
Oh, no. I mean, you're gonna probably be, it's gonna be considerably higher. I mean, it's by 5% north of that. And that makes a big difference, as you know, when we're talking 50 or 60 million dollars. I mean, that's going to be several pennies equivalent on the tax rate. So, yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we talked to Don about too, and we'll come back, and we'll give you a background on what interest rates look like now. When we luckily were able to refinance some debt and do some borrowings over the last few years, rates were extremely low, historically low, and they've gone up, but they're still on average where they have been in the near term too. So it's not as, our rates are not like what mortgage rates are out there. So that's the good news.
So would it be any opportunity to smooth our debt?
So one of the things that's a positive of the way your debt structure is now, the way it declines like that, right? So that means when we borrow going forward, we will be able to do that, add new debt service onto that drop off and still not be above where you currently are. So it limits the impact of a new borrowing on your budget.
I think ironically enough, I believe when we were looking at all of our debt services for Hardy, we also project the fact that West Side was going to be around the corner. And that curve there was, we felt like was a perfect timing, hopefully.
Yeah.
It would hit about the same time we were ready to move something on that next school.
So when are you coming back?
We'll get with Don, and
Yeah, well,
we need to get some stuff. We'll figure it out. But I think we had said,
Mid-May or something.
mid-May timeframe.
And part of that, again, is because short of the way this 1% may be put in the
Yeah.
governor's budget versus in legislation, it's the same impact. That may be as late as like April 14th, 13th was the veto session and all. So we'll know with certainty around, let's say, tax day. We'll know certainty what it all looks like, and then give us a couple of weeks to work with, with staff and understand what that means in terms of how we look at that.
There's some nuances with the legislation that, depending on how it comes out, you may be able to use it to pay for historical school projects or school borrowings. It may be just for future. So we want to sort of know that and be able to come back and show you what it would look like.
Yeah, I appreciate the information. Thank you so much for it. What I was interested in talking about is the piece you're going to come back and speak about in May. So thank you for
Teaser,
that.
a little teaser.
Yeah.
Mr. Ely, you good? Good. Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yes, sir. Good to see you
Look forward to
again.
seeing you later.
Chairman, first of all, let me say thank you to David and Jimmy for coming and providing that information. And I think that'll set us up for our next conversation to hopefully move some things forward. Next, at your invitation, we invited the treasurer. Asked Ms. Sly if she'd come forward, and I think you all wanted to talk to her about a few things relative to county's financial posture as we go into the budget, collections, obviously, how we're doing with that, but also I think there was a discussion about whether or not there was an opportunity to potentially look at a banking institution that was physically located in the county. And so there are a number of things that I think you'll want to talk about, but that's what you mentioned last time.
Okay.
Good evening. I received an email from Don yesterday morning with some questions, so I took the opportunity yesterday and today to pull together some information, so I'm going to give y'all these three for over here, and then these are theirs and Courtney's. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. It's three.
Is it three
So it's
separate?
it is. So they're turned, so each section that was turned is. So these three go with that. So each section that's turned. So you need a dark, you need a dark blue paper clip, a light blue paper clip, a purple one, and a green one.
Light blue.
I got green, okay? I'm looking for a green.
Okay. Here's green.
Maybe dark blue, light blue.
Light blue, anybody?
You okay, Frank, you got yours?
Thank you.
All right.
There's one way to do it.
Okay. I know that we have two new board members, and while you are tax-paying citizens, a lot of citizens do not understand that our personal property tax and our real estate tax are on different tax years. Real estate is fiscal year, our fiscal year, personal property is calendar year. So that makes your real estate, the first half is due in December, where the December is your second half of personal property, and it causes a lot of confusion with citizens. It makes it a little more difficult, or a little, it's not more difficult, it's just a little odd when you're sending out notices and everything, because you have to remember, wait a minute, we're on two different halves for each one each time. But we typically, personal property bills are created mid-March, mid to the end of March. They are sent to the printers mid-April to be mailed, and then they're due June 5th. Real estate bills are created middle to end of August. They are sent to the printers middle to end of October and mailed out, and they're due December 5th. We do have business personal property. Those are created about middle of June. They're sent out around the beginning of July, and they're due August 5th, the first half. And then the second half is due December 5th, sent out middle to end of October. And then we start the collection process for anybody that's not paid. The system automatically, it's written into the program, on June 6th, August 6th, December 6th, and any other day in between, if we have supplement bills, whatever, penalty and interest goes on. And the states gave us a guideline to go by for penalties, and it's all in the background, so it automatically is put on the bills, automatically.
Is that a percentage of the bill?
The way that they say to do penalty is anything 1 cent to $9.99 is double the bill. That's the penalty. Anything $10 to $99.99 is $10. Anything $100 and over is 10%. And then interest is 10% yearly, so it breaks down to 0.83% monthly that's charged. So interest isn't a real significant amount. Your penalty is what is your significant amount, especially if you have a large bill. On January 1st, we start working on it in December. As soon as we have the payments posted, we start working on it, but we send a file to the state, which is for set-off debt. And the state will hold people's state income tax refunds, lottery winnings, anything that is paid through the state. If we have sent a file to the state stating that they owe taxes, and we have got to where now we take the real estate bills and we have incorporated those, general bills. We're looking at trying to get the utility bills incorporated in as well. We have to go through, it's some more manual work, because for any of them that does not have a social on the bill, we have to manually create a file and add the socials. But when we send it to the state will start holding their refunds, and they start with those, and it will hold all year long until we send a new file. We send them November 1st, so it kind of catches up everything up to that point. And then we send them again January 1st for anything that includes the December bills.
One other question. So some folks have a payment plan to pay their taxes. So is that payment plan penalized?
Yes, penalty and interest do not stop just because you have a payment plan. What the payment plan stops is, as long as you are making your payments, we don't do anything. Well, you will still get the DMV stop, because those are based on anything with the agreement with DMV is if you have a vehicle, trailer, anything like that, that you owe taxes to the county for, we can put a hold on your DMV, which means you can't renew your license, your plates, nothing like that. You can't put plates on new vehicles, anything like that, until you pay us. Now, once you pay us, we have 24 hours to get that stop off, so, and you can go right on in, just like it was never there. You can even go online and take care of it if it's a weekend, and we've taken the stop off, the DMV's closed. You can still function on a weekend once we get the stop off. But we have 24 hours, and some days it takes 24 hours because, like right now, they're very busy with paying those taxes to try to get their stops removed. But we wouldn't go as long as you are making your payment arrangements. We don't go and lien your checking account, or we don't lien your employer. We don't do a distress seizure because you're doing what you said you were going to do.
Right.
So as long as you keep up your side of it, we don't do any further collections like that. But everybody gets a set-off debt and a DMV stop if they still owe taxes.
Okay.
Okay? Now, if you only owe taxes for December, we wait until after the March 5th date, which is when the late notices are due. We wait till after that date to give you time to get it in because that's the date we put on that bill. If you owe any other taxes, June or anything before, we pick up your June bill as being late and we take further collection action, we are going to collect December at the same time. You are not in the same category as someone who only owes December if you owe more than just the most recent tax bill. So, but that's our biggest is, and then from there, after March 5th, we typically will put a $30 fee on there for being more than 90 days past due, because it's a whole lot of extra work that we're doing in the background that's helping alleviate some of the charges, for the county and the fees for paying. So we put a $30 fee on there, and that becomes due, and that's whenever they start, everybody becomes eligible for liens to your bank account, liens to your employer. We even can lien, if the person is in jail or in prison, we can lien their canteen funds. And we have.
I hope you don't do that.
We have, absolutely. Because it's out there and it's available. Some people are long-term in jail, but they still have the taxes sitting here. Why should we leave them on the books for how many ever years before the state says you can't collect them anymore, you have to write them off? They've got somebody putting money in a canteen fund. It's no different than me going to work and somebody taking my funds.
Yeah, but I can't imagine, having an abundance of money in a canteen fund. It's probably not worth the effort, probably. I mean,
Yeah.
you can do what you have to do, but
Yeah.
I don't think it's worth the effort.
So I think that was a good review, thank you, of the overall big picture. One of the reasons that we wanted you to come tonight is just to explain to us how we're doing right now with regard to tax billings and collections as of current date. And I see you have, many different piles of information here. But I think the thing that was alarming to us when we had the last meeting in February was the 79.81% collection rate. And I know it's on PP2, which is actually the second half of the year for
Yeah,
personal property.
that's November, but for PP2's not even due. When this report, the November report, personal property 2 is not due until December 5th. So that is, because personal property 1, PP1, only has a 12.33% that's uncollected. It's got an 87.67% that is collected.
So in this stack of papers that you've given us, maybe it helps to tell us what's in the dark blue, the green, and the light blue. But I'm trying to figure out, from all of these reports, if 79.81%, although it's only a month old at that point, because we have a tax billing collection report as of January of 26 in front of us. It's the last one we were given, and it's the one we looked at the audit committee. But is 79.81, is that commensurate with past years?
For it being uncollected in November? Yeah.
I mean, so you're saying like subjectively, but do you have the actual percentages of past years of what that
Well,
percentage was at this time?
The past years, the ones that I have, the taxes for the second half, so like the taxes that were due December 5th were not included on the tax levy report until December. They won't include it in November. So they didn't even show.
So I'm sorry, I'm looking at a report that's January of 26.
Yes, that's whenever the position moved over to the finance department, Stephanie reworked the tax levy report, and she changed it, because before, if you go back and you look at the November of 23, you will notice that the amount for the personal property is only $7,749,000. Where when you look at November of 26, you have both of them on there. You got the 10,528,000 and the 10,514,000. So on the one in 23, your second half is not even accounted for yet on
So you're
that one. So
saying
you
that-
can't compare it because it's not there.
You're
to
saying
compare.
January of 26, the report that we have is actually November data, not December?
No, it should be January. I don't do the tax levy reports. Budget and Finance does the tax levy report. So I'm assuming they were using data that was for the end of January.
Okay, so this happens a lot, right, where there's kind of, I'm not coming down on you, I'm just saying this happens a lot with information that we get, and it's kind of a finger point in between the finance department and the treasurer's department. So I really would, Mr. Robertson, like to understand how 79.81% compares for PP2, because it seems like a low percentage to me, right? I would like to know if in fact that's January data, or if it's kind of like November data, like Ms. Sly is saying, or, you know, just what the deal is, because I'm tired of looking at these reports and questioning if we're doing okay or not with collections, when what we have from Ms. Sly is a bunch of screenshots and some ones, you know, these paper clips shows us years that are in the, you know, mid to, anyway, late 2000s.
Just a quick note, I'm pretty sure it's from January, and I can check with Mr. Floyd, he left just prior to us starting this report, but one thing to note for the reports that you receive currently, or in the current year, that would not have been reflected in previous years as it relates to the collection rate. If you recall back during the budget process, we anticipated roughly about a $3.5, I think it was actually $3.6 million impact from the exemptions, specifically the military,
DOD.
yeah, disabled military veterans, but it also includes some other exemptions. And the discussion then was, we'll show that on the revenue, but we'll also show an offset on the expenditure side of the budget. What we believe is happening in reality is that when those exemptions are addressed, they're actually addressed on the revenue side, where they're netted out on the revenue side. So there's about $3.5 million that will not show up in terms of your collections because it's being netted out. And so I think that has an impact on what you're going to see on the FY26 report that would not have been an issue in '23. So it's as was noted, it's probably not a true apples to apples comparison when you look at one report versus the other, just because in any one given year, some things may change, such as that exemption.
So that collection percentage is 86.95%, and what I was referring to is the 79.81% as of January 26 for personal property.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So
I'm
unless
sorry.
we write off personal property according to disabled veterans, then it's a different story.
We do.
You do? They're both?
They get.
But the number isn't 3.6 million for personal property, yeah. So,
No, I was saying that as overall, but that probably would account for some percentage difference.
right.
In the.
So just assuming that, because one of the packets you gave us was November and December, I appreciate the historical data, but, so January of 2017, so I'm trying to compare January 2017 to January 2026. These January 2017 numbers, are these what has currently been collected, or is that at the date?
No, that, I pulled, you asked on your thing for 5 to 10 years. So I went back all the way, 2000, the January 17 is the first one I had available. So I started printing all of them from January, so you could see each January what the rate was. 'Cause you
What it
won't-
was then, or what has been
What it
collected
was
now?
then.
What it was then? Okay.
Yes.
All right, so if we're looking at that for, let's just go to 2017 for argument's sake. If we're looking at January of 2017, personal property, you're looking at 94.10% and 87.82%, but yet in January of 26, personal property is 79.81%, or does that need to be a blended rate between PP1 and PP2?
That would have to be added together. Because on this report, the January, it is, both of them are on the same line. It
So if-
doesn't break them out.
Okay, so if you're adding that together, the average of those two would be about 85% is where we're sitting. This is back of the napkin math, and we're doing this right now because we just got it, but 85%, when in fact, like in January 27, it was 87%, 86% in 2018, 96%. Anyway, I appreciate all the historical data. It seems like we're behind in collections. And again, I'm just looking at personal property. I understand we have an adjustment that needs to be made for real estate, but given that, what are your goals for collections, and how are you attempting to make sure that we're collecting as very much as we can, given all of our expenditures, and it is budget time and
We,
we need the money?
we go through all the channels like I had explained before. We start off with the late notice, and then we go through the accurate to try to find the person, see if there is, we use VEC to get their most recent job that's been reported there, their earnings there, because they could have changed jobs. Then we send an employer lien requesting the funds, and sometimes they are current, sometimes the people have left. We have the option to go into the state's system, and we can see where their tax refunds are going, what bank. So we can send a bank lien to that bank and request, and if we are able to do that, if that is up-to-date information, then we can withdraw. The bank will freeze their account until the money is satisfied or the date on the lien comes to an end.
How's all that done?
How's all that done?
You done through computer
Mhm.
programs or?
We have access to the state program because we have to put in the information to the
Like,
state for
somebody
income
has-
tax and all.
Somebody has to search it, search to find.
Yes, sir. We have 3 of us in the office that can go in, have done all the required training from the state to be able to go online and go into the different screens that they allow us, and we can see what is available, the information that's available for bank accounts and all of that. VEC sends us the information if we request it. We have to pay for it. So we will typically go out there and search each one because it changes. So we don't want to pay for a file this month and then next quarter, they're not even at that job anymore and we wasted the money. So we go and search them as we get to them. We search that person and we find where their most recent reported income is and we'll send a lien there. Worst case scenario, if we cannot find anything else, we will send a distress seizure. And we are going to seize your vehicle, your trailer, whatever we have to do to get the taxes paid.
Okay, this seems like a very circular conversation, and it seems like it's what you've been doing for the last, since you've been in office. So I guess really my question, so that we can move on and try to collect more on what is owed, aside from the way that it's been done, because I get the sense, again, from just 5 minutes of looking at it, that our collections percentage, at least personal property, seems to be at least 2% lower at this point in time of FY26 as it was in these other years up to 10. So what do you need from us to try and make sure that you can step up collections, and what are your strategies for collecting more money so we can get back to the rates that we had seen?
Well, there's not a lot of strategies we can do. We have to go by the processes allowed to us. And unfortunately, it takes time. And I have 2 people collecting. My chief deputy, she tries to work on it when she can, and I try to help work on it when I can. But we have other responsibilities in our roles that keep us from doing it. Another person to help with, doing that in December, everything stops until tax payments are posted. So
did you say that
December and June, you got about 2 weeks, 3 weeks in there that there's no collecting whatsoever done because everybody has to post payments, answer telephones.
So
stuff
if
like
I may, I get it, everybody needs more help. So,
Yeah.
for example, you're on a person's on a payment plan, they're making payments, and then, I don't know, they find out that there's a lien because they go to title a vehicle. They're like, this doesn't make sense. I've been making payments every month. This doesn't make sense. So they call out here and, oh, no, you still owe. So when people have multiple vehicles, for example, and let's just say they're titled, one's titled in the guy's name, the husband's name, we'll say, and the other one's wife and husband's name, the other one is wife, husband, and survivor. Do they get different categories to where if you're making payments on personal property tax that a certain account may not get that same money?
No. When we set up payment arrangements for someone, if the common person on all of the accounts comes in, we get the payment arrangement set up on all the accounts. We try to include all of them.
So in other words, if that doesn't happen, then there's something wrong, right? So if somebody has a payment plan, they've been making the payments, and then they get, next thing they know, they're getting served because we're going to go after them, their trailers and all that. It's all the stuff you just talked about. They find out through their employer that, or actually go to do a DMV thing, and they find out it's frozen. They're like, this doesn't make sense. I've been making my payments. There's something else wrong there then, is what you're saying?
Yes, if they're not included, if the property that we're going to seize or do any other, which we typically would not go after an employer, do a tax lien or a bank lien if we see that they're on a payment arrangement for something else, because there's notes in the system that says payment arrangement.
Okay.
So we could see, and then we would try to reach out to them and say, you got this account that you're on that there's no payment arrangement, there's no payments on it. It will keep you from being able to renew your tags because DMV stops are based on your social. They're not based on a vehicle.
And that's good to know,
So-
because I may know somebody that maybe didn't share in the wonderful experience that you have with that person's name on it, it all gets paid and all that stuff. So the next thing is, Ms. Roundtree, I give her all the credit. I mean, she looks at these numbers and she's asked for reports, and she doesn't just ask for them to see people do some type of exercise. But I guess just hearing you talk about this, what I thought I was going to see today, this is interesting with the colored paper clips and all, Is this Munis or what program they'll use for?
That was a spreadsheet that whenever it was created, it was just done as a PDF, a snapshot of what was on that.
So these are prints of just PDFs? is what
Yes.
we're- Okay, so I guess what I was thinking that Ms. Roundtree was asking for, and I could be wrong, Ms. Roundtree, was, probably, not that I'm into charts, but some trending that shows the last 10 years where we are, maybe some explanations on, I don't know, that was a COVID year, or that was when we went electronic, or we got the mailbox, or whatever, many reasons that things change over 10 years. I guess I was looking for a summary, not a stack of papers, but maybe maybe I misunderstood what you were asking.
Well, it's certainly make it easier to decipher if it was, trended in a bar graph or something. And what I was trying to tell is, as compared to January of, let's just say 2023, which I think was under a different treasurer, why would you surmise that the collection rate, at least for personal property, let's just talk about that, is 2% lower?
Why the collection rate now is
Yeah,
2%
do you think people are
lower?
just paying less on their tax bills, or, because one of the differences that I can remember is that we used to have this drop box where all the payments that were made, I know we had to send them to another place like Baltimore, Maryland or something, but all of those were electronically processed, and you just stated that your team in December can't focus on anything else because they're processing payments, but in fact, doesn't that make it easier on your team and more efficient if it's electronically posted? It does not.
It is if it's going to be electronically posted correctly. The lockbox, the last year when I was here, my last full year working for the county in 21, when I left in March of 22, we were still getting payments in the lockbox dated December 5th. There were many payments that were coming in January that were December 5th. Well, it would come in and it would be dated whatever date that lockbox came in, and then we would have to reverse the whole lockbox and reapply it.
So is
it
there
was
only
a-
one lockbox company, or are there other ones that do a better job? Because it seems to me like to be able to think of strategies that promote efficiency and maybe AI, I don't know, call me crazy, but it seems like I sell AI software for hospitals, but, so I know a little bit, something about that, but it seems to me like there's probably been a lot of changes since 2022.
I don't know. It was the lockbox that was through Bank of America. So it was supposed to.
Yeah, I'm glad you said Bank of America, because I've been trying for 2 years to figure out why we have all of our money at Bank of America when they don't have a branch in the county.
Because a RFP is a big job, and when your finance department and treasurer's office is short-staffed, that is not a job to take on.
So we don't have any
It's
shot
a
at putting out an
huge-
RFP for that?
I will, when, I think the finance is finally staffed, but now they're all getting into their jobs and trying to catch everything up that has been lagging behind, so I'm just trying to give them time. I mean, the bank reconciliations, I finally got all of those November for last fiscal year to go through and approve. So we can't really do an RFP and say we're going to change banks if we don't even know that the bank reconciliation was done. But now we're between finance and my office. We are working on them. We are in the current year, making sure that transactions are done, that they're not missed, but it's an ongoing process to get us caught back up. And the one that's doing the bank reconciliation, she has a lot for December, the end of November and December, to make sure that everything is accounted for, and she's working on it very diligently. She gives it to anything to my office, and we go ahead and take care of it so we can get it caught up. And
So I'm sorry that Mr. Floyd left before your presentation. I do appreciate your preparation. It might not seem like it, but I do. You know I do, because I run the audit committee and we've talked many times. Do you think before our next meeting you could get with Mr. Floyd and you all could let Mr. Robertson know a timeline for when you can get the RFP out?
I will look. It will be one that whenever things are running a little smoother and stuff, I will put it out, but it is at least a 6-month process for the RFP to give banks time to get their bids in, work up whatever they want to do, and then we have to go through the implementation period and changing stuff over and all of that. So from what I have heard talking to other treasurers, you're looking at least a year's process from
Gotcha.
start to finish.
My point is, if you aim at nothing, you're sure to hit it. So I'd like to have a timeline of when you all will get the RFP out. I get it that it takes 6 months for the banks to respond, and we might be sitting here a year from now and still not have a bank with our money in it that is in the county. I also think it would be interesting to have a review of the interest rates that Bank of America offers us.
I'm
That'll
not
be-
giving those, if we're gonna put out an RFP, I am not giving out the bank rates because any bank can watch these videos and get an unfair advantage when offering rates.
Okay,
So
I'll
I'm
come to
not
your
gonna-
office then and privately
I will
get
come.
those. Would you give them to me?
Yes, they are available, but I don't wanna put it,
With that information for an RFP, would that be a closed session? Could that be a closed session work opportunity? So there's some, apparently some.
Once the replies come in, that is not subject to disclosure until the contract's awarded. So, yes.
Okay, I'll set up a meeting with you about interest rates and kind of how that's going. I don't know if there's any other questions about the tax billing and collections report, but the audit committee meeting that we had on Monday, we did look at the updated February 17, the Isle of Wight County cash balances report. Still has a typo in it. And I know that's not your department that does it. Mr. Floyd and his folks created this report. But the audit committee did have several questions about the 2016 bond principal, bond interest, 2022 bond principal, bond interest, 2024 bond principal, bond interest. Do you have any way of talking to us about that, or is that just Mr. Floyd?
that's budget and finance. They send me an email when funds either need to be withdrawn or sent. And I either set up the wire to go or request the funds.
So, Mr. Robertson, you heard the discussion of the audit committee meeting on Monday, and Mr. Floyd, I think he owes us some answers on what these numbers exactly mean on this report. Again, I know you didn't provide it, but I'm sure you're familiar with the Isle of Wight County cash balances. Do you get these?
I don't.
They're provided to the board.
I'm sorry?
Those reports are provided to the board.
And not to the treasurer? Okay. All right, full transparency, that's good. I guess they're public, so.
Oh, absolutely,
You
absolutely.
could find them online under the agenda, I suppose, because they're all stated. So I know you got some questions from the audit committee. That's really, at this meeting, what I had hoped to cover. The last question I have is just two questions. A, are you fully staffed? And B, what's your immediate goals for FY 26-27?
We have one position open that we have set up interviews for. The interviews will start next week. It is a full-time frontline clerk position. But the goals for our office is just to continue to serve the citizens, to try to answer their questions as quick as possible over the telephone, in person, however they call, emails, and to make sure that funds are posted as quickly as possible.
Do you also take in water bills too?
Those do. The utility billing department is located in the same office with me, but we don't collect them. However, I have been communicating with the lady who works with utilities, and we have started to try to incorporate some of the old bills they have sitting out there where people just left and didn't say anything, and we're trying to find those people and collect that money as well.
Do you know how much it would have made me smile if you would have said one of your short-term goals was to put out an RFP for a new bank? That really would have made me happy, but you didn't. So is there one single change that this board can do or support you to try to improve collection rate, or do you think there's not a problem?
Just it's just a process. I don't know what anybody can do more than we are actually doing, unless you just had a room full of 100 people, then that's all they were doing. But in reality, that's just not in the budget, to have people, a whole bunch of people just doing collections, because then you wouldn't need all of them after a while.
You really
But
don't
we are
need people
just-
anymore because you can have AI assistants do most of it, or at least, get people on the phone to call them to collect. So do you have a statewide treasurers group where you guys talk about best practices and employing technology?
They do, but a lot of the different localities are on different systems, so it's really hard to, I can talk to the ones on Munis, but then or Tyler Technologies, but then you gotta see if they're on your same level, because some of them are still on the real old version, some of them are on a newer version. So,
And the platform would affect strategies for collections?
for what the system can actually do, because as you move up, I think there's pieces that are a little more advanced than they are now.
That's all I have.
But
Anyone else got any questions? Ms. Dillon? Mr. Gardner? Thank you.
okay,
Mr. Chairman, the next item that we have is a review of the tourism 5-year strategic plan. And Ms. Winslow's going to be presenting that.
Good evening, lady and gentlemen of the board. I am not going to talk about money or finances.
Thank you.
We had the pleasure of putting together our new 5-year strategic plan this past fall. Several of you actually participated. It was an amazing process. The people that were, well, man, let me move this ahead. Oh, no, what do I need to hit?
Just left click.
Left click. Aha! Ta-da! Okay, so what we did was we did 2 planning sessions that we hosted at the Smithfield Center. We invited 33 key community stakeholders that came together. And the reason we did that was because we want to grow tourism in Smithfield and Isle County and encourage visitation. The stakeholders that were included were elected leaders, our tourism team, government officials, as well as representatives from accommodations, restaurants, attractions, community organizations, and retail. We were extremely fortunate to be assisted by Laura Messer, who is our Destination Development Manager with VTC, which is the Virginia Tourism Corporation. She has assisted lots of communities with strategic plans, and she was an invaluable resource in helping us get through this process. Each of you has a written copy of the plan at your place. If it looks like a term paper or a thesis, it felt like it. But it's done, and we're excited that we've got that in front of you. I'm going to just do a very high-level report about what went on for this strategic planning process and what we got out of it, and then you will be voting to accept it at your next official board meeting. So. All right, first thing we've got in the plan is our executive summary, which includes who we are, where we're located, and some of our top strengths. Of course, being Smithfield and Isle County, we are world famous for hams. That is our #1 industry. But believe it or not, tourism is #2. So I always say, hey, we are #2. We are a very well-established department. I've actually been at the helm of our tourism department for 20 years. So we're pretty well established, and we've got a great team. We are thought of as very safe, as a very low crime area. We've got small town atmosphere with a walkable downtown. We've got recreational assets such as water, parks, and over 80% of our county is rural. People tend to forget that as they drive through Carrollton, but literally 80% of this county is rural, and we've got those kinds of assets We've also got a lot of extremely popular events, and that tends to drive a lot of tourism in our area. How Smithfield and Isle of Wight Tourism fulfills its mission is through successful programming, strong marketing, bringing resources together. As a matter of fact, in 2024, we received over $140,000 in grants, and planning for the future. One of my personal goals is succession planning for the future. Also in the executive summary, we talked a lot about challenges. I'll talk about that a little more deeply in a moment, as well as goals, which is to foster tourism growth through broadening our appeal to a more diverse audience and to improve quality of life for all of our citizens. The amount of money that is brought in through tourism actually saves our citizens almost $1,000.
Hey, Judy, I had a question.
Yeah.
It might be on the heels of the last discussion, so just bear with me.
Oh.
I see we're world-famous hams.
Yeah.
The Smithfield ham, are they ever, the genuine Smithfield ham, are they going to produce that again in Smithfield? I mean, I'm just saying, we're the ham capital of the world.
We are.
Smithfield ham, Smithfield.
Yes.
And they don't even make it here anymore.
No, they
Now,
make a
that
lot
being
of
said, let's
hams.
give a plug to the Dardens, because they make Dardens ham. But I don't see a lot of tourists. There are some, and that's great, but when I think of tourism, a lot of times, I'm thinking downtown areas and stuff
Oh,
like
sure,
that. I guess my point is, in Isle of Wight County, how many different hams are produced in our county now?
Really?
You know, we're number one in the world-famous ham market.
Yeah, that's just because we sell more. That's where we make our money.
So how many hams, is it just Dardens now? Are we down
Well,
to
you mean
one?
other than Smithfield Foods?
Because, well, Smithfield Foods, they do a ham, but
They
they
do.
don't do the genuine Smithfield ham.
Correct.
Just like we used to have Joyner hams
Right.
and so on and so on as we watched them over the years.
Yeah.
Do you know how many ham producers we have in the county?
No, I think probably the Dardens and Foods is probably it. that I'm aware of.
I just thought when
Yeah.
you see that world-famous
I know,
hams,
right?
you would think that roll off the tongue. Well, you know, that'd probably be a good answer to a question that, I mean, if my feeble mind comes up with that during this, I'm just kind of curious. But thank you so much.
No
Judy.
worries.
So there's only apparently the Dardens
Yeah.
okay.
And luckily, the Dardens is gonna
other
get much bigger.
hams, and the Dardens are expanding. But
Yeah.
when you say genuine Smithfield, you're talking about the salt.
Salt.
cured.
Absolutely.
The
'Cause
old salt
growing
cured.
up here, being
Old
born and raised
school
here, that's
country.
ham to me, not
Yeah.
the sugar stuff and all that stuff.
I
mean,
feel you.
Smithfield
I
salted
still
ham
love
is
those
ham.
hams, yeah.
And when I see number one ham, that's what I'm thinking of. I'm not
It's
thinking
funny, the
about
last
sandwich
time
meat.
I was in New York City, I walked by a meat market, in Midtown Manhattan, and there was a Smithfield ham in the window.
Was it?
Yeah, I should have taken a picture for you.
What
Absolutely.
about here?
Was it a Smithfield Country Ham?
Yeah,
It was?
it
Genuine.
was.
I didn't think they.
Probably
made
been there
it.
for a
Probably
while.
they probably bought them up in New York, bought them all up.
Yeah. We've got one at our museum.
If we can eat that.
No, we can't eat that one.
Thank you, Judy.
You're welcome. And then there's data in here from VTC, which includes 50.1 million in visitor spend, 527 plus jobs through tourism, and then 1.6 million in state taxes and 2.3 million in local taxes. So, I'm going back to money for just a moment.
You promised you weren't going to talk
I know,
about
I'm
money.
sorry.
527 jobs in the state, or just in the county?
Yeah.
The state.
Yeah, no, not the state, in our town and county are attributed towards tourism. That includes, the hospitality industry as well as transportation. Let's talk challenges, because as you go through this plan, you'll see that was a big topic of conversation. We have limited public access to our surrounding waterways, so that came up as a big challenge for us. As well as tourism product gaps. We have limited nightlife opportunities. There was some joshing about rolling our sidewalks up at a certain hour that was earlier than perhaps some people would like. We have few traditional recreational venues. We don't have a movie theater. We don't have a bowling alley, those types of things. And limited diverse accommodations. I cannot tell you how many times in our visitor center we get visitors that come in and say, "Where can I camp?" If anyone is looking for an entrepreneurial opportunity, I would highly recommend they open a campground. We unfortunately still, even with all the progress being made, have fairly poor internet connectivity, especially in downtown Smithfield because, it's a very old infrastructure. We've got workforce issues, the available and affordable housing, limited childcare opportunities, transportation concerns, entry-level professional opportunities. And we talked a little bit about untapped capacities at both the fairgrounds and Luter Sports Complex. Those are both incredible venues, and we would like to make sure as we progress that they're utilized more.
Would permanent bathrooms help at the fairgrounds?
Permanent bathrooms always help. Yes. Expanding tourism efforts to Windsor and the greater county. That's a constant goal. Limiting infill, we have limited infill properties available in the Smithfield Historic District. Budget constraints. Corporate volatility. If Smithfield Foods were ever to leave our community, we'd be in a world of hurt, as we saw when, with what happened down in Franklin. Parking. Certainly downtown parking is an issue that comes up repeatedly. Transportation modes. This came up a lot at our discussions because we do not have a lot of public transportation. If you don't own a car in this community, you can't get anywhere because we don't have Uber, we don't have Lyft, we don't have all of those rideshare opportunities. And I think that would also be a wonderful entrepreneurial opportunity for someone who wanted to start those services in this area. And then, of course, we have decreasing volunteerism, and then the all-important citizen aversion to change. And that's not just us. That's human nature, and it's in every community. And then we talked about our purpose. I did a preamble for this, talking about what tourism does, and it creates jobs. It generates local spending, it generates local tax revenue, and generates economic vitality. We repurposed and recreated a vision statement for tourism, and I won't read it for you because you can kind of go through on your own. But we also did a mission statement as well, that Smithfield and Isle of Wight tourism is a community asset responsible for programs promoting the community as an attractive travel destination by enhancing its public image as a dynamic place to live, work, visit, and play. These are really difficult to see, and so I wrote them on my little plan.
In the retreat, you'd be surprised how long that took us to wordsmith.
It did, I know. Yeah, I spit that out really quickly,
You did.
but it took a long time to put that together. In 2024, the sector share percentages of tourism expenditures in Isle of Wight County, these are the sectors that brought in the most money. The leader was our food and beverage industry, who brought in 33.5% of that money. Second was lodging, which brought in 22.6%. Retail brought in 20.5%. Transportation 12.9%, and recreation 10.5%.
So that must be county and the towns put together?
It is.
Information?
Yes.
So expenditures in Isle of Wight County, the lodging amount goes to the town?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, they're combined
Right.
in this graph. All right. Also in the tourism strategic plan, just gonna go through this quickly as you'll be reading through it. We talked a lot about background, and we talked about the background of both the communities, Isle of Wight and Smithfield, as well as the tourism department. I regurgitated the entire history of when tourism started in our community up until today's date. So if anybody is ever interested in reading that history, that is all included in this strategic plan. We did a SWOT analysis, really interesting read. We put together a visitor profile. And then probably the most important thing that we do in this strategic plan is figure out how to fix things. We put together an action plan. That action plan includes goals, what we want to do, what we want to get, where we want to be. as well as the key activities. And all of those key activities included short-term goals, ongoing goals, and long-term activities. So when we're going to complete getting those actions done. And also in the appendix, we did a hub and spoke exercise. Actually, we did several. Did a goal prioritization exercise. We put VTC economic data in that appendix as well. We did sector-specific data from 2020 through 2024. I included information about the highway markers and some other information about just what happened at these two incredibly important meetings where this strategic plan was developed. So very, very high overview. I can answer any questions for you, but I'd love you to actually read the plan and let me know if you've got any questions at that point. It's got some really interesting things in it. What I'm especially interested in people knowing is some of the entrepreneurial opportunities that were pointed out during this strategic planning process that I'd really love for people to take up because I think there are gaps in what we've got here.
I just have 4 questions.
Sure.
Number one, on page 35, the year-over-year comparison for 2024 for lodging, food and beverage, recreation, retail, and transportation. Those numbers for the first time since 2020 seem to be red. So is there in fact a slide? I mean, does that mean we're decreasing the amount of money that we're getting back
No, that means we had a bridge that was closed.
in 2024? Okay. I mean, it's the only year out of the last 5 that are shown.
Yeah.
With the exception of during COVID.
Yeah, we actually, I was very pleased that we actually held fairly well. We didn't go down too much, but it did affect us.
And that'll affect 2025 as well.
Yeah.
For 3/4 of the year.
Yeah, but it's come back pretty strong.
That's it. That's good.
Yeah.
I wish our sales tax was
I know, me too.
coming back strong. What did the town of Smithfield say? Because I know you presented to them, so what were their questions?
I did. The only thing they actually had some questions about was, one of the things we talked about when we were doing the strategic plan was there is a perception that small businesses have struggled a bit to start businesses here because of regulations and that type of thing. And we talked quite a bit about, it's a specific language involved in doing that. And I think our folks here, certainly, and the folks in town, really try to help people through that process as best they can. But it's still a bit of a hurdle.
I mean, I would urge you for that to, speak to the chamber and also our, we have a full staff at the EDA as well that I know you work with all the time. So, my third question, what do you all do for tourism in the town of Windsor?
We've just really started talking with Windsor about helping them through primarily events. They have to go through a process that really figures out what is their major draws, who they are. But we have offered ourselves as subject matter experts for them to pick our brains to help them do whatever it is that they need to do.
And then lastly, how about the permanent farmers market site? I know I saw on Tuesday night that the town of Smithfield's going to buy the Grange at 10 Main property.
Correct.
And so I don't know what that means for a permanent farmers market site. I wondered if you had any insight.
Well, certainly one of the things that came out of this strategic plan was that was one of the biggest needs. We felt like the farmers market did need a permanent home. I believe the town of Smithfield will be going through a master planning process for that Grange property, and we'll see where that goes. I am in the process of applying for some grants to see if I can get the money started.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Well, I look forward to reading the entire document. I guess, Judy, the only thing I would ask, as you know, we have Adults with Disability Commission. Is there any, because you're very creative in the way that you think about utilizing resources and all, do you think there's anything that we could, is there any inclusion with that group, or that maybe we could be a little bit stronger as a community by involving them? I know that they are, for example, after some of the events, they do help with some of the
They do.
services, if you will. But when appropriate, putting them out front, or where they're more comfortable, I guess is probably the best word. Just see how we can get them engaged. Do you think that might be an opportunity with some of this?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I don't know specifically, but like I said, you're a very creative lady. There might be an opportunity to maybe go before that commission with some ideas, or maybe get some feedback from them, and just see how we can include that part of our population. I think we're missing out a real opportunity there.
And we've got a lot of things that we do in tourism that I feel like that community could really help us do.
Right.
Yeah, let's do some brainstorming on that.
Okay, appreciate it, Jay.
You good, Mr. Gardner?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we take a 5-minute break? I have to go.
Go turn the
5-minute break.
thermostat down.
We know where it is?
It's over there, but apparently.
We'll reconvene. Next on the agenda will be the five-year comprehensive plan review.
Good
Proposed revision.
All right, good evening, board members. My name is Amy Ring. I'm the county's Community Development Director. The update for you tonight on the comprehensive plan revisions is we did, after your last meeting, reach out to the graphic consultant and ask how many days she would need to turn around like a pre-final draft of the comprehensive plan for you all to look at that would address some of the design and formatting issues. And she did say that she could turn it around in about a week, and she did produce a pre-final draft for you all that I did send you out yesterday when I received it. So this latest draft is attached to your staff report along with a memo from staff addressing some of Supervisor Roundtree's previous comments, just to show that we did attempt to address some of her concerns and if we needed to change the plan in accordance with some of her comments. So the pre-final draft, which is online, if anybody wants to compare it to the previous draft, there are both digital versions available on the staff report. You can see that the consultant was able to address a lot of the labeling in the font and formatting issues. However, she did not have time to prepare and finalize some of the updated tables that we need also inserted into the final document. All the proposed changes are highlighted in yellow, similar to the previous drafts, that are different from the original adopted document from January of 2020. And I'll be happy to answer any further questions that you all might have on the draft.
Okay. No questions on the five-year plan? So,
I got the attachments at 4:48 PM yesterday, so I've not been able to, read back through all of it, which I will do, I
Okay.
promise, but, I mean, I'm not ready to
Act on it.
act on.
so you want to table it again until our regular meeting?
Can we put it to the work session in April instead of the regular meeting?
Well, we're gonna run into our budget.
I mean,
know it.
Oh.
But we could.
Do you have an abundance of concerns that could be sent out early so we can have them answered? Because like you said, we get ready to get into the budget and that's going to be time consuming.
Yeah, I did, and there's a page and a half of them, of concerns, and their answers that I haven't really had a time to digest
Oh, okay.
since 5 PM yesterday evening.
So she got your concerns.
Yeah, and you got her responses to them. You have in your
Well, I
email,
haven't had a chance to
res-
look at it.
right, so you have responses to all of the things. I mean, just globally and philosophically, I think as a board, we should consider whether or not we'd like to keep things in the ongoing draft, after the review every 5 years of the comprehensive plan, that we have no intention of doing, right? Like I kind of got to last time before we ended the discussion. So if we're not ever going to fund the PACE program again in the next 15 years, because we're 5 years in, which I doubt we will, because I think we figured out that was kind of a thing that is expensive that we're not really into right now, then should that carry forward, right? Should that be in there as an expectation? Or should we just take it out, right? And that's a philosophical discussion that you guys we have to have, I think, as a board. Another example is when we had our strategic planning retreat in October, green infrastructure plan is in the comprehensive plan as a goal, and it's a not yet started goal, but it is in there as a goal. But when we talked about the strategic plan as a board, we were like, not really supportive of that. It's not something we want to do. So why is it still in there, right? For the next 15 years, just hanging out, and we don't think we want to do it. So I would hate for us to say, out of one side of our mouth, that this is a dynamic document with community input, et cetera. And then on the other side of our mouth's like, that was 20 years worth of a comprehensive plan, so we're not gonna change or pull anything out. I mean, I'm not saying that you didn't change anything. You changed a lot. It was a whole process. But if there are large rocks in the stream like that we know aren't gonna happen, we should take it out.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. There's 4 other people on this board, but that's my opinion. I have not been able to review this information, so I do need it at least delayed until the next
If we
time.
can agree on stuff that needs to come out, I mean, why keep putting it in? I mean, it's just a floating document then. I mean, it really doesn't mean anything.
And sometimes those items, even if they reoccur, say you take them out,
Yeah.
and 2 years from now, 5 years, whatever, it becomes a something the community wants to do. I think it's better to have the conversation of why it was pulled out and that we need to put it back in, et cetera, so on. And I don't mean to beat an old horse, but I think the walking trail, the trail fell into that category. It was in there, it was moving very slowly over 20 years or something. And then when it really hit the fan and really got its own legs on it, good and bad, some people are like, well, it was in the plan. Well, it was, but maybe it shouldn't have been for a while. Maybe it should have been up front and in a conversation, and somebody say it's not in your plan. Why are you doing this? And we're putting it back in because this. So I
But
think
like
you
you
gotta
just
really-
said, we can always put it back.
or the next board can, whenever it's
Oh, yeah,
appropriate.
whatever, yes.
Yeah.
I just hate for something to be sitting there and people reading it and say, when are they gonna do that? When is that gonna happen?
Well, it also gives sometimes people the perception that there's money that's going to be spent one day. We really don't have the money for it. That's one of the reasons too why you pull things out.
So I understand that there were some changes made to pictures and, labeling and things and I realized some of my comments may have been trivial. It wasn't just a page and a half after you answered everything. It looks like it's more like 4 pages. But, if we did put it off until the next meeting, which is in 2 weeks, would the final, tables and other things have time to adjudicate, time to be changed, or no?
I mean, I can ask if it's just a matter of inserting the updated pictures and tables, for example, and any, for other little tiny editorial changes, I think she could certainly turn that around. But again, without your final comments on it, like say you want to take out the goals of the Green Infrastructure Plan and the PACE program, then I really need those before I give it back to her. Any kind of substantial changes like that.
Okay.
So it's 4 things that you want to try to take out.
There might be more. Those were
I
the,
mean, we keep looking at it for 6 months. I mean, you can keep finding some things that you don't like, but it's only a plan. It don't mean that we're gonna act on it tomorrow, in the next 2 years, 3 years. Maybe you're not act on it. Depends on the budget, depends on our revenue, what we got, whether any of this stuff will take place. So, I mean, I think the longer you look at it, the more you might think about, this don't need to be there, that don't need to be there. Well, I think.
Is this something
it's
that we'd be maybe able to take action in our next meeting on?
Well, that's what I'm saying. In our regular meeting,
I'd be
we
comfortable
voted
with that.
up or down.
I'm comfortable with that too. I'm just not comfortable with it tonight.
Right.
I'm not comfortable with it tonight. I'm comfortable with
Okay,
that as
well-
well,
Okay.
but not tonight.
Right.
All right. So we're holding back making any final drafts or a final until we hear from you all at your next meeting.
Right.
What the last changes are.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay.
But you'd like to have this on your March 19th,
That's what
Yes,
we said, yeah.
yes.
old business.
All right. Well, the next item E is the Rushmere Village Master Plan, and that's part of the 5-year comprehensive plan.
So we did not send this one back to the consultant yet. I said, we did not, we met as staff and we made the decision not to send the Rushmere plan back for a pre-final draft from the consultant yet. We figured with the small amount of time that she had to turn around one plan, that we couldn't send this to her as well, the Rushmere plan. So it's the same document as you saw last time.
Right.
And we were just waiting, and Don and I discussed it, and we thought we would wait until we heard your discussion tonight to know what direction to take it, so.
Yeah, and I think part of the conversation that would be helpful to us is because, and maybe we misread the conversation at your last meeting, but it seemed as if there was a sentiment that this plan should not move forward, period. And so if that's the case, yeah, there's no reason to continue to.
Well, how can we agree with that when I think Brevis Park is in the comprehensive plan, Tyler's Beach is in the comprehensive plan, we got the boat harbor in the comprehensive plan, and several other things in there. All of that is part of Rushmere. What bothers me more than anything else is you have people that come to Isle of Wight County that have lived most of their life in the city and enjoyed all the amenities of the city. Then they come here to Rushmere, not just to Rushmere, but other parts of the county too, and they want this quiet place. Well, people in Rushmere have been here for years and years. They want to see some changes. I'm going to share a few things with you all. In 1953, Rushmere had 9 country stores. Today, we got a Dollar General and a Rushmere Food Mart. Okay? And in 1953, Rushmere had 5 gas stations. Today, we have 1. Okay? Rushmere had a post office. Today, if I want to mail a letter, I got to drive to Smithfield. Is there a need for change? Yes, I think it is. The citizens of Rushmere, years ago, I think it was in Don, you probably helped me with this, with the Rushmere Volunteer Fire Department. That project was opposed by people in Smithfield, by some folks in Carsville, some folks in Windsor. They opposed that. People in Rushmere were determined to make that Rushmere fire station reality. And just last Saturday, we celebrated 35 years of success at Rushmere Fire Department. And what this comprehensive plan is showing us is that the folks that have been there all this time, they want to see a change. They're not saying develop all of Rushmere. We know for a fact that's never going to happen. But they will like to see maybe some sidewalks, maybe a bike trail or something that's going to connect Brabby's Park to Tyler's Beach. I think they'll like to see that. I would like to see it before I die. And I've been in Rushmere for almost 73 years. And it's just time for a change in Rushmere. The folks in Rushmere have been paying taxes. I've been paying taxes since 1966. Some of my money that I paid and my family paid and a lot of other folks in Rushmere have paid, we need to see some actions in Rushmere. And the last thing I'm going to say is, I surveyed the young people from Rushmere that graduated from high school, graduated from college, and they never came back to Rushmere. Why didn't they come back to Rushmere? Because they got nothing to offer. Why did they go to Bennett's Creek? Because they can go there and rent an apartment and never have to leave the complex after they get home from work. You want to get your car washed? It's right there. You need some gas? It's right there. You need to go to the doctor or whatever? It's right there. You want to go to a restaurant? It's there. We're not saying Rushmere need to be like Bennett's Creek, but we need some amenities in Rushmere so the people in Rushmere can enjoy themselves. The senior citizens in Rushmere want to be able to have a place where they don't have to travel to Nicotite Park. Brabby's Park will be that vehicle where Rushmere seniors can come in and meet, sit down and meet and talk, have a meal, go back home, whatever. But I'm just telling you, Rushmere is ready for a change. Not a major change, but some changes. And I'm 100% in favor of this Rushmere Village Plan, master plan.
So, Mr. Jefferson, I thought about, because you had spoke on this matter at the end, and I had a comment that I was going to add to it, anyway, I know a DSD is different than a master plan.
Right.
But just to compare the two, growing up in Carrollton, I can remember as a young person just what you're saying. There's nothing to do in Carrollton.
Mm-hmm.
You have to go all the way to Newport News or Churchland to do anything. I was younger then. But that being said, people kept moving in. They kept, and they wanted that quiet country living. We've seen it on the board, people building without permits, et cetera. They just think, it's going to be the country stuff. Now, that being said, I look at my parents who built a house in 1971 and are in the same location. They had one side would say are fortunate, they're in the DSD. They would argue that they're unfortunate in the DSD because what they've gotten out of it is congestion. And they had their own community well system. County bought it. Now they pay a lot more for water, where they used to have a fixed water bill from the 1970s. So I think there's people in our community that are worried that, like my parents, I was just hoping that my house is paid for, my children are gone, I want to stay in this place, but I don't know, because unfortunately, crime comes along with that too when you get more and more people. They're worried about that change. Now, that being said, this board, at least or maybe as a board member, what I hear sometimes is they want to do a project or a development, and it's not popular with the people that live there. So let's just go with the Rushmere. Let's say there is a project or a program or something that's going to Rushmere, and the people that you're talking about are like, that's not what we want. What I hear now from voices that call me on the phone, et cetera, is, it's in the DSD, you really have to do that. I think that's what the worries are too, is that a plan is great so you don't end up with, and I kind of touched on before, urban sprawl, and you end up with a hodgepodge of stuff. If a number of years ago, you could have rode down Route 17 in York County, it's all junkyard and then a pool place and another junkyard, and people used to use that as an example of what not to do. So I think the plan helps prevent that from happening. But I think the fear is that when you come up with a plan, then developers are going to come in and you're going to have to do it. And I don't know that that's necessarily the case, DSD being something different. But I think that might be what some people fear. The people, and I don't want to speak for people, but the ones that came, they like the quietness. We haven't been here long. We really enjoy it. Well, we want you to enjoy it. But on the same time, you got to have some kind of plan. If you don't, sewer's going to come through. And like Carrollton, we had the DSD, but nobody ever, I can remember as a young person, they saying, one day this place is going to blow up. We're like, none of this perks down here. But who would ever thought that main sewer line from Smithfield Foods would go through Carrollton, which is why it turned into what it is. So I guess back to the point is, I think the fear is that with the plan, there's going to be an obligation to develop. And I don't know that that's necessarily the truth.
Well, Joel, I'll share this with you. In Rushmere up on the upper end, one of the biggest developments probably in Otherway County. I cannot remember not the first negative about that development. Lawrence Point, that's a big development. Those people come in, they built their homes and steadily building their homes. I cannot recall any crime. If you look at the sheriff used to put out where crime took place at, so to speak. And he had Rushmere, he had Carrollton, Smithfield. Rushmere was a quiet place. You might have somebody that get drunk or get out of control. But as far as being a crime-riddled place, Rushmere is not that. Rushmere is a place, before we even heard about this village center, where I lived at on Track Lane, we should say it takes a village to raise a kid. When I was small, if I went down the street, Track Lane, and did something wrong,
Your parents do it
not
before you got
only
home.
did that homeowner at that home discipline me, but when I got home, I got another whipping. So that made me a better person and made other folks down on Track Lane in the Rushmere area better people because we looked out for one another. And we tried to avoid all the negative in Rushmere. I mean, people in Rushmere don't really create a whole lot of problems.
Well, and I wasn't saying that at all. I just know that I've heard them say in Carrollton, for example, there's a lot of good people that say their children are in some trouble or they're hanging with the wrong crowd. So they move to Carrollton. Well, then the crowd comes to Carrollton to visit the friend, and then you end up with the issues.
Yeah, right.
Well, my question, like you were talking about, sewer, water, and Rushmere does not have that name, either one, correct? It's just mainly-
Rushmere, water is provided through Otherway County for a portion of Rushmere.
Right.
From Burroughs Bay Road to First Gravel Hill Baptist Church, Parsonage. Up there further in Orange Estates, I provide water to the residents and on the estates. Then another the water company provide water to the next neighborhood.
That's kind of how Windsor was. It was all this,
Right.
people like yourself put a water system in, I'll sell them water, and that's kind of how it got started. And now the county, of course, is in on the sewer system, which that's something else we're gonna have to take up one day. It's coming, because that's failing. People got land they can't build on because sewer won't take care of it. And then county came in and took over all the water systems there. And they've had to go back and replace a lot of them because they were put in back in the 50s and 40s. And they've got in bad shape and they've had to replace some of them. They've had leaks and everything else. But with saying that, Windsor was a neighborhood. I mean, I knew where all my teachers were in elementary school down one street, every one of them. I'd go by the house, you know. But now, I mean, I don't know, half the people in Windsor, of course, they're getting ready to put up another project in Windsor. They got two outside of Windsor. They got another one they're putting up right now, another one they're putting in. And the only thing I hear now is, man, I wish we were back in the days where we didn't have all these people because nobody knows anybody. And then people move, and I understand, they're moving in Isle of Wight. They want to get away from Norfolk or Virginia Beach, and they've got jobs this way. And a lot of them are military. A lot of them are military. Because if you think about it, it's just a short jump from Windsor to Hampton or Newport News or Norfolk or Virginia Beach, either one. So my thing is, I don't demand development, but if you pass an ordinance where development can come in and start, how do you control it? I know what you're looking for. I know what you're looking for. You're looking for sidewalks and something to help your life make it better. I understand that. But if you do that, and that's fine, how do you control the larger developer coming in and say, I'm gonna put 400 homes?
It's one specific area that they're talking that might have the possibility of development. It's not all over Rushmere, it's just one area.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, this document is not a zoning document. It's a guiding plan, so if development ever comes to Rushmere, that it's setting forth the goal of preserving the character of what Rushmere is by limiting the idea of limiting construction on the major to the major thoroughfares and leaving and Amy can do a better job of this, but it's a guide to future development if it was to occur. It doesn't, and again, I can see how somebody could look at it and go, well, they've made plans, they're gonna be building houses tomorrow, but that's not what this document is.
So back in the 2020 plan, Rushmere was the only village out of the 8 that we have throughout the county. And Rushmere has been a designated village center since 2006, I believe. So for the last 20 years. And they were the only village center during the community meetings that we had and the comments that we received on our surveys that wanted additional residential and personal services closer to them. And so in response to that, the land use plan was changed. The future recommended land use plan was to include some more area immediately surrounding the Rushmere Village Center to include some higher density residential opportunities, future recommended land use. Now that, again, as Bobby was saying, this is just a guiding policy document. It can be, changed, by the board. It can be amended. And if the conditions change and the community doesn't want what's being proposed, then the board can certainly vote no. So, I mean, I just like to reiterate what Bobby's saying. It's not an ordinance. It's just a guide to what the community would like to see in the future.
So what you're saying is the board would still have control?
Yes.
Just a plan.
Because there's very little in the entire Rushmere area that has been zoned anything other than RAC. So every type of development would have to come in and seek a rezoning to do anything any substantial nature at all.
I just have a few comments.
Okay.
Okay. I feel like, or I think, I should say, I think that to have Bradby Park and Tyler's Beach and sidewalks like you'd like to see, Supervisor Jefferson, doesn't require a master plan, doesn't require the village plan. I feel like the land use development recommendations that are in this plan, being a part of the comprehensive plan, will become a self-fulfilling prophecy. And that, page 24 that shows 3 existing farmers' fields, and then on page 26 turns them into, as you admitted, high-density housing, will drastically change the character of that area that the majority of the people that live there don't want. Again, I don't want to, begrudge the people from having recreational opportunities and a boat dock and a park and sidewalks and those things. But I feel like what's pictured on page 26 with townhomes, single-family homes, high-density development, someone's going to take that and look at it and say, oh, I can put that there, and it fits perfectly in that farmer's field. I also believe that that type of development is very, very different from the $1 million homes in Lawns Point. So I feel like it's a very different type of development. I mean, Lawns Point, most of those are waterfront and they're very big homes. It's very different from what's being proposed in this village plan. Rushmere is not in the DSD, so it's not in the Development Service District. So we've said 20% of the county is in the DSDs in the towns, 80% is rural. This piece of the county, I believe, still to be rural. And the moment that we pass a village plan like this, that outlines these kinds of things, like I get it, you say, oh, these puzzle pieces could fit here. But the moment we do that, I think there's going to be mounting pressure as that self-fulfilling prophecy to then spend the money to take water and sewer up there and make it almost like a DSD because we've approved a village plan that then kind of directs it. So I appreciate the work, and I do appreciate your perspective and, that of the people that spoke. Just for even the budget purposes or the reasons I outlined, I'm not in favor of passing the plan.
We just sat here and listened to a financial advisor, and I think one thing he told us that growth shows affordability. So should Rushmere be exempted from any growth to help the county afford what we need to accomplish in the future? Nothing in Rushmere was completed in 5 years or 10 years. For Bradby Park, we started on Bradby Park, talking about Bradby Park probably in 1979 or somewhere in that neighborhood. And today, 2026, we still have not broken ground.
But weren't there some hurdles on that with clearing of land? Wasn't that land donated to begin with?
The
And
land
then
was
wasn't the
donated.
land cleared? Then we had some some issues with the land not perking like it should. I mean, there were some other things in there, right?
Joe, the bottom line, if you go into any property and log it with heavy
Right.
equipment, you're gonna create ruts all
Right.
throughout the place.
And
Rut,
that's what did it, right?
yeah.
I was just saying there were some challenges.
Right.
Whether they were intentional or not.
I think one of the things that, again, whether you all develop a plan or not, that's the board's prerogative. I think what should not be lost in this, at least consideration or conversation, is the fact that none of what we say tonight precludes development from occurring in Rushmere. Homes are popping up all over Rushmere.
Yes.
The challenge is they're popping up without a plan. And so, just as Mr. Akery alluded to earlier, I literally drove down Route 17 through York yesterday, and I was looking at like, wow, years ago I used to drive through there more, and I said, well, this is just really, like you said, auto parts, pool store, something else. And I suspect that when all that happened, they probably did not have a plan or vision for what that would look like. Nobody envisioned that York County would be what it is today 50 years ago. And Rushmere, won't look like it does today, won't look like it does today 50 years from now. The challenge is there an interest in developing a plan that helps to guide what it would look like in 50 years as opposed to just allowing it to happen organically? And that's a decision this board will need to address.
Well, like you said, one thing, that would give us the opportunity to drive it the way it needs to be driven instead of just Tom, Dick, and Harry come in here building a house here, building one over yonder, building one back over there, and it gets approved just by just going through the zoning and planning. You would have it coming up and you would have to continue doing that. At least, I guess, with a plan, so say, you would still have control of it, but it would be a plan where they could or could not build. Everybody would be on term of where this house could be built or it couldn't be built, or the store could be put or not put, town center could be put or not put. So, I mean, but not having a plan, and they continue to build like they're building now, what is that gonna be?
Yeah, I think Ms. Roundtree had a good point. I mean, I lean heavily on Mr. Jefferson because he's from Rushmere.
Yeah.
You know, it is tough because we've had people in this very room with projects in the DSD and really upset because of more development, et cetera, and we had to basically tell them the DSD were developed so we could preserve places like Rushmere, so that it would remain what people grew up loving about Rushmere. Not the necessarily people that just moved here, but the people that are actually there. But at the end of the day, I mean, I'm torn, so at the end of the day, I'm going to have to lean on you, Mr. Jefferson, on the way I vote on this.
All right, well, I think we've had enough conversation on it. Let's call and vote on it. See if we want to include it. All right. Well, nobody else make the motion. I'll make the motion to include Rushmere Village Master Plan into the 5-year comprehensive plan. Any unreadiness? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Mr. Ely?
No.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Acree?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
No.
Mr. Jefferson?
Yes. Thank you. We'll move on. Employee health insurance.
Good evening. For those who don't know me, my name is Michelle Clark. I'm the Director of Human Resources here for the county. Tonight, I'd like to talk to you about our FY27 health insurance renewal. For those who are new on the board, we participate, in the local choice. We affectionately call it TLC. It was created by the General Assembly, as you can read, in 1989, and what it does is a pool for small local governments to participate in health insurance, so that that smaller local government doesn't necessarily have to go to market each and every year and find health insurance. We offer 3 plans for our employees: our Key Advantage 250, 500, and we also offer a high deductible plan. Dental, comprehensive, and preventative is included with each plan, and we also have vision insurance with those plans. Our plans are administered by Anthem, and we have 295 employees enrolled in our health insurance. This slide kind of gives you an overview. The public sector trend, and when I say public sector, I mean private businesses. They're looking at approximately 7 to 10% increases in their health insurance. We had a discussion earlier today that there are some localities in the Hampton Roads area that if their health insurance is going to go up 10 to 30%. Yeah. The primary drivers of increased health costs are your pharmacy, specialty pharmacy costs, increased utilization, more and more people going to the doctor, and then your high cost claims. Our FY27 renewal remains within the expected market. So our FY27 renewal is 8.1% over our current year. which means our total cost for FY '27 is $6.3 million. We currently, for many years, have split the cost of the health insurance with the employees, meaning the county picks up 81% of the cost, employees pick up 19%. For the new members on the board, and a refresher, as a member of the local choice, we have to pay a minimum of 80% of the health insurance cost in order to participate in the local choice. So for our FY '27, 81% of the 6.3 means the county would pick up a total county cost of $5.2 million, and employees will pay a little over $1 million. Financial impact to the county, this 8.1% increase means the county will have an increased cost of $391,987. This maintains our 81% contribution rate and keeps us in compliance with the local choice. We will be adding that figure, of course, in our FY '27 budget planning. It keeps us in a competitive benefits position, and it supports recruitment and retention. And this is critical because we have a lot of employees, and the first thing they say when we onboard them is, oh my God, the health insurance is affordable here. Financial impact to the counties, they will have a $216,700 increase over the current year. Their cost per pay period is going to be varied by the plan they select. And our high deductible savings plan still is our lowest cost option. But it keeps us as affordable health insurance. This slide, yes, has a lot of numbers, but this is how much each plan increases per pay period for the employees. So the lowest increase will be our Key Advantage 500 with preventative dental at $2.06 over what they currently pay. The highest is the Key Advantage 250 with comprehensive dental at $42.12. This slide shows the actual for FY '27, the cost per pay period. As you see, the family plan at $250 with comprehensive dental is $494.76. And then the cheapest plan, again, is that comprehensive 500 with preventative dental at $30.90. Yes.
Family plan, what's the total between the county share and the employee share?
The county, hold on one
So
second.
you know what I mean for the total?
Total cost of
Yeah.
that plan? Hold on one second and I'll
I
tell
know
you.
there's different categories there.
Yes.
Let's go with the higher one.
The higher one?
While Ms. Clark is looking that up, I just need to make sure I note, I think you all get it, but if public's listening in, that's per pay period, so that $494 is roughly $1,000 a month
Right.
for the family coverage.
That's every 2 weeks.
Excuse me?
Every 2 weeks.
We get paid twice a month. So it's a little bit different.
And and they're paying about 20%
Yes,
is what
roughly.
that reflects.
Yes, a little under 20. So which plan were you?
Let's pick one of the higher ones.
The 250 family?
Right.
So the 250 family, the total cost per month for that total health insurance is $3,192. Yes.
That includes dental?
Hmm?
That's the one with dental?
Yes, that's the one with comprehensive dental.
They pay what?
Sorry,
How much?
for the employee
Family plan? Yeah.
or the employer or the total cost.
The employee.
20%.
The employee cost will now be, for the Key Advantage 250 with comprehensive dental, $494
Pay period.
a pay period.
Pay period.
Yes,
So it's 2 pay periods a month.
2
So
pay
just
periods a
under
month.
$1,000 a month.
Just under, yes,
The county pays the rest of that
correct,
to equal the 3,000 something.
correct.
The employee's paying about a third on that one.
Yes. Oops. Move. Okay, so this slide shows you the historical health increases over the years. 21 was a great year, where we had a reduction. 22 was was 0. And as you can see, they have steadily increased over the years. I will tell you, just in talking with Anthem, and Ms. Roundtree knows this from working in health insurance, I don't think it's ever going to go down again.
It's not.
kind of the decision overview, just to reiterate, our renewal increase is 8.1%. Our total cost for FY '27 for the whole plan is $6.3 million. The county's 81% is 5.2. Employees pay a little over $1 million. And our recommendation is that we renew and maintain the 81-19% cost sharing model.
And with that, it'll be a $216,700 increase.
For the total year, yes.
Yeah.
So at budget time, would you be able to provide us an idea of how many employees take advantage of that? Because we've talked about that in the past, that sometimes they're on their spouse's insurance.
We have 295 employees as of last month enrolled into the health insurance. Split. I will tell you, the comprehensive plan only has 5 employees. Only because I think that people, and we do this every year and we'll do it again this year, when we roll out during open enrollment, we have a full discussion of the benefits of high deductible plan. But I will tell you that if you have a lot of prescription drugs, if you and your family frequent the doctor's office, the high deductible plan may not be the best fit for you or your family. It's generally designed for people who use health insurance less.
How many total employees do we have who are eligible for
Eligible
benefits?
cheeks and seats, about 301, I think we're up to now.
301 people?
Full-time? Oh, I'm sorry.
How many
About-
people are eligible to buy health insurance? So we have 295 who do.
Correct.
What's the total number who are eligible? Because I'm guessing you don't offer health insurance if you don't have like your labor pool doesn't get offered health insurance.
Part-timers, yes, are not eligible. It's just full-time employees. So that's about 288 to 89. I'm sorry, 295 are on health insurance. So my 300 number is about the number of employees eligible, full-time employees we have now eligible for health
So there's
insurance.
only 5 people that don't buy health
It's
insurance?
not a lot. So the people who don't have our health insurance are usually on TRICARE because they have health insurance through the federal government.
So 5 people
Maybe, it's
Don't-
not a lot.
buy it.
Yeah. We push health insurance. I will say my benefits coordinator pushes a lot of people, especially single employees, to get health insurance that normally, so what happens is they'll go through open enrollment, I don't want health insurance. We follow up and call and say, you really might want to get this. And they turn around within the waiting period and come back and get health insurance. Because we explain to them, everybody is one cough, one sneeze, one anything away from needing a doctor or a doctor's office.
Does that 300 people include the 5 of us?
I'd have to check my numbers to see who has elected for it.
I don't
I
know
don't think
that number
so.
includes you
I don't
all.
think that includes you
Just
all.
You're
curious.
eligible, but I
Yeah.
don't know that number
I've
includes you.
checked, but I don't think any of you all.
Did we, when the county, didn't we separate dental and vision?
We
For
have a
people who-
standalone dental and vision for those employees who have TRICARE, because we did get a lot of questions, a lot of comments about 3 to 4 years ago, that if they were on TRICARE, I guess I don't have TRICARE, but the dental and vision coverage wasn't that great. So we do offer a standalone dental and vision for employees that have TRICARE.
What's our contribution for that?
We pay roughly 20, I'll get the exact number, but it's somewhere between $25 and $29 for that. And we don't have a lot of people now on the standalone dental.
Well, you've only got 5 left.
Right, I'll have to get that exact number and the exact number of the cost, because I can't remember. It's somewhere between 25 and 29.
And I think the reason for this discussion is multifaceted, and one of them being, we're trying to keep good employees, and it's such a competitive market. And if we've got an edge when it comes to some of our benefits, then maybe we take a little bit more time on trying to maybe make those more robust, so we can take care of our employees and maybe stretch the dollar, if you will. I don't know.
So, one way that employers have stretched the dollars, and my husband's company just did this last year, is that if a spouse of an employee you know where I'm gonna go with this, employee buying insurance could also be covered under their employer, because the county of Isle of Wight contributes so much, 81% of the premium, that there's a penalty that you pay if a working spouse could also be on their own plan, so they could make their own employer pay that percentage and bear that burden and cost, and not the spouse's employer. So have we ever considered that as a cost mitigation strategy?
We've kind of looked at it. So the interesting thing about doing that, and especially talking with different insurance brokers, we have one that I talk to quite a bit. So it works when it works, and when it doesn't, it doesn't. For example, I'll use myself. My spouse's private company, he works bank. He's been on his own insurance for the entire time we've been married. However, his costs have gone up so much that it's just not feasible for him to pay for a single. It really isn't. So what we've heard from when we onboard new hires is that we make it, let's say, affordable to come in with a family on our health insurance. We have, just so as for a statistic, we have 45 employees that are comprehensive dental Key Advantage 500. We have another 15 that are Key Advantage 250. So because we make it affordable, our employees are covering their whole family. And yes, we have quite a few in single and dual, but I do think if we definitely can research that, but I think we lose some of our attractiveness to new hires if we not suddenly, but start to say, okay, you can only have you and your kids on the plan, but your spouse has to pay somewhere else. Because now the employee is trying to make a decision where I can't afford to have 2 health insurance and 2 premiums coming out of my household when I can afford to have 1. Does that make sense?
Newport News shipbuilding? They did. I think they changed it one time to that. If you worked there, your family couldn't come home to it if they could get insurance somewhere else.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah.
point. Most companies have gone to that.
Yes.
So it's just my line of questioning is, have we
That's okay.
considered that? Because it is a cost mitigation strategy. I certainly appreciate your example. But
Yes.
it would be interesting to know from the carrier how many localities, places they cover, whatever, have gone to that strategy.
I can do some polling around for the localities. Keep in mind that a lot of the localities are self-insured. So their cost mitigation strategies are going to be way on this end because they're the ones that are now facing the 10 to 30% increase in the health insurance for the upcoming budget cycle.
Yes,
But I can definitely look into it.
Just curious. I mean,
Okay.
don't like break your neck doing it. I am interested in this. But speaking of, just one more thing that you said. So speaking of self-insured, can you tell me where we are with trying to get the schools off the self-insured?
So
Train.
I haven't spoken to the school system about their upcoming renewal. So I don't have an answer. I can definitely reach back out to them. They have a short time window if they're going to make that decision to go to the local choice. Because, yes, they may have missed the window for this year.
It's too late now.
There's a very tight time limit to make the decision and go to local choice. We're coming up, the reason why this is coming to you tonight is because we have to get all of the board approval and all our data started into local choice. Open enrollment starts May 1st. That's not a date we get to decide, that's a date the local choice decides. So they may, to your point, they very well may have missed the window for this year. But I will follow up with them. I
And
can
we
follow
have
up.
an April 1st deadline
Correct.
for
getting all the approval and the information into the local choice. We have to have that done by April 1st.
It would be nice if they tried it for next year, but
Yeah,
I'd say I asked the question, but I did see Mr. Berry on Monday night,
Okay.
and they put out an RFP,
Okay.
and they've gotten responses back.
Well,
And I do believe, I just wondered if she had talked to you about it, and if you knew about it, since we still have to pay for theirs too. I mean, she's indicated that they can be on time for a May open enrollment,
really,
for effective July 1st.
and I've been talking to the superintendent for a while in terms of just trying to encourage them to consider all their options, but certainly we have told them how well we have done under TLC. Literally, I was in a meeting yesterday, and Ms. Clark alluded to this a little bit earlier, just going around the room with CAOs from around the region, anywhere from 13 to 30% increases in the current year. I didn't even say anything because I didn't want to offend anybody by saying that ours was 8.1%. But we have been extremely fortunate. Prior boards have somewhat made a commitment that we would be a family-friendly organization. We're benefiting today from those decisions years ago. When we really get into the heart of the budget conversation, one of the challenges that we're going to be faced with, and this will probably be in your first work session, is a discussion about what we do with regard to personnel, partly with regard to public safety personnel, and then, really a larger look at the overall personnel. And our intent, our desire is that we remain competitive in Hampton Roads. In some respects, that is a larger challenge for us with regard to salary competitiveness. But if somebody sits down and looks at real dollars in their pocket, they have to consider what they pay for insurance as well. And so right now, that's one area where we're probably not necessarily at the front of the pack, but we probably have a competitive advantage over a lot of our neighboring communities.
So I would expect when we meet as personnel committee, and you bring us all of the fantastic pay rates that we need to go to for next year, that you would also line up what those people pay for health insurance too. And I don't know if that's part of pay studies, but I think it matters.
I know.
Obviously, if we're trying to use that as a strategy to say, we don't have to be absolutely at the top of the pay scale because we contribute 81% to the health insurance premium, then we need to look at the full picture when we look at dollars.
And that's what the discussion we had earlier is that there's a lot that the county does contribute to employees that the employees may not fully realize. For example, employees pay 5% to VRS. The county picks up over 11%. That's toward their retirement. Now, we have to pick up that 11% because the state says this is what you have to pay. But I don't think employees realize that 11% goes towards your retirement. So yes, I trust me, I have heard from a lot of employees about their salary, and I get it, it's their take-home pay, everybody's at the same grocery store, having the same price, price shock when they go. But there is a lot that the county offers, let's say benefit-wise, that employees may not fully aware of.
You had another question? Okay, sorry. Okay.
Well, the healthcare is going up everywhere. Went up at the jail, 9% in the dog?
Well, exactly. I haven't heard anybody in any of the conversations that I've had with folks with an anticipated increase lower than ours.
Right.
So do you need a motion for us to approve these rates?
Yes.
That would be desirable.
That would be,
you would,
yes.
I move approval of the rates as presented.
Well, we have to,
It's just an
Oh, we have
adopt
a
a
resolution?
resolution.
Do I have to read the whole thing?
No.
No, just
have to just-
a motion to
just
adopt
adopt
the
it.
resolution, I
Okay.
think would be sufficient.
I move that we adopt a resolution to approve the employee health insurance plan offerings for fiscal year 26, 27.
That's sufficient.
Any ready?
Mr. Ely?
Yes.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Akery?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Chairman Jefferson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item, community rating system.
This one will be quick.
So this is an update on where we are with applying for the community, or to become a member of the community rating system, which, as you all recall, is a voluntary incentive program that recognizes and encourages community floodplain management practices that exceed the minimum requirements of the National Flood Insurance Program. So in exchange for these practices, or agreeing to do these practices that exceed the minimum standards, the member localities get a reduction in their premiums, their flood insurance premiums. And it can range from 5% to 45%, depending on how many of these actions that you perform. So communities are given classes which correlate to their discounts. For example, a Class 8 community receives a 10% discount. A Class 9 community would be a 5% discount, and if you're the highest one, which is a Class 1, then you could receive as much as a 45% premium discount. So the process for applying to become a member of the community rating system, the first thing you do is you get a letter from your county administrator to say, please consider us for enrollment in the community rating system, and we would like to request a site visit from one of your CRS coordinators, which we have from Dawn. The next thing to do is to submit a checklist where you go through about 4 pages of checklist items, and you check off which ones you're doing, which ones you're willing to do, or which ones you're thinking about doing. And the idea is that each of these actions are assigned a certain number of points, and the goal is to get to a minimum of 500 points. You attach that to your letter of intent, you send it on to FEMA, and then they schedule you a site visit. So we have been going through with our building inspector, and we need to go through with our emergency services coordinator to make sure that we have all these answers correct, and then we will submit it with the letter, hopefully in the next week or so, to get that site visit underway. And then after that, they come down, they make sure that we are doing what we say we are doing. They total up our points, and then they tell us what kind of discount we're entitled to. And then we have to recertify it every year. So that's where we are now with the process.
So what's the timeline of completion, you said?
So hopefully when we send the letter out, it's a matter of a couple of weeks to a month to schedule a site visit. And I don't get the impression it's very long, so.
And this was something in our strategic plan, right? That's why you presented tonight. Thank you.
No problem. Just if we ever decide, I'm just putting it out there, to do a green infrastructure plan. There are parts of a green infrastructure plan we can use for points to get discounts. So like, for example, one of them is, have you adopted a plan to protect aquatic or riparian species or other natural floodplain functions? Do you have a plan in place to protect floodplains? Those kinds of things, so just an idea.
I wasn't against a green infrastructure plan. I wanted to put it in the strategic plan, so I'm on your page.
That's all I have for you tonight. I'll be back when we have an answer when that site visit will happen.
All right, thank you. I guess the next item would be the joint meeting with the schools, set for March 26th. Is that date good for everybody?
Mr. Chairman, I think we had previously kind of polled you all to see if that date worked. Obviously, as we get into the budget process, one of the larger questions or larger budget areas that you'll have to deal with is public education. The school board had previously requested that there be a joint meeting. You all have done this for the last, I think, few years anyway. We met with school staff, and that seemed to be a good date. So we're simply asking that you pretty much make a motion so that we can go ahead and get that information out and address that.
For stipulation, seems like for the last, I don't know, however many years we've been doing this, I can't remember the last time we got an agenda of the meeting before the night of. I think one time we had our own agenda and it was the same as the school boards. Can we get an agenda on what in the world we're going to be talking about so we're not surprised? And then I'm hoping that it'll be very productive this year. It won't be a situation where, I mean, you know, I don't know. We know what we have to work with revenues. They know what they have to work with their priorities. To me, it has a tendency, sometimes we meet together and there's, whether it's intentional or not, it seems like the lines get blurred. So anyway, I just would like to have an agenda for a change. So that night, I'm not handed a piece of paper and say, oh, I guess that's what we're talking about tonight.
And we'll certainly do that. I'm not aware of anything other than discussion of the school's budget for that night.
Well,
We can certainly give you.
They bound to have an agenda, because the times that we've gone, they had an agenda based on their budget, and I'd like to have a copy of it if there's going to be one beforehand.
Well, the other thing is, I'd like to review the materials before the
We'll get
26th.
out, but I need to, I guess, get a sense of what you.
Well, I mean, when we sit down and we said, I don't know, one particular year, we're going to discuss budget. I don't know, we're just going to discuss budget. Oh, lo and behold, there's an agenda, 10 school buses, bus garage, da-da-da-da-da, right on down. Huh, somebody had this before tonight, but I
I
didn't.
think the schools will probably say that's all a part of their budget.
Well, then
So if you
we'd
want
like to have a
an outline
copy.
of
That's exactly what we'd like to
then
have.
that's- yeah,
So we
okay,
can at least be prepared to
that's-
talk about it.
Yeah.
I think the last 2 years, we've tried to be orderly in that discussion, and we've looked at operations, FTEs, and capital, right? Because there are three kind of very separate topics when you're speaking about budget. So I think that could even be the agenda. However, I would like, I know Dr. Kramer presented the budget last Thursday. I think some of you all went to the school board, so I'd like to have that in my inbox, not like, oh, Renee, you can find it somewhere online. I would actually like it to come to me, as well as the, PowerPoint presentation that they're planning on giving ahead of time to review. And then, for the last 2 years, the school board's been talking about zero-based budgeting. And I'm not so sure that they actually made it to zero-base this year because, from what I've heard, the increase that they're requesting couldn't possibly have started at zero. Anyway, my commentary. The point is, the agenda should be operations, capital, FTE, not necessarily in that order. And I'd like the materials ahead of time, please.
I'm hoping that meeting be mostly a listening session for us, and we don't make any commitments, because Don haven't even told us how much money we could possibly have.
And then we all know, because we've learned over the years, you can commit to any project you want to, and at the end of the day, the school board has the authority to put the money wherever they want to.
Right.
You can give them whatever, and they can take it and build it's capital improvement, but my point is, they can hire this type of people, or they can hire teachers, or they can give raises, they can do whatever they want to. We found that out the year that we were waiting for the state budget, and Randy decided to, when we had category funding, just pull it out of there just temporarily, and they couldn't sign any contracts. So,
Okay?
your motion?
You
Your
good
motion.
now?
We need a motion to
Motion.
set the
Motion to set the meeting for the, was it 28th at 6 p.m.?
26.
26th.
Thank you.
At what time?
26.
Mr.
6
Ely?
PM?
Yes.
6 p.m.
Mr. Gardner?
Yes.
Mr. Akery?
Yes.
Ms. Roundtree?
Yes.
Chairman Jefferson?
Yes. All right, with that said, if no other new business, this meeting is now adjourned.
So let me make sure. So